Show yourselves! Who summons the master of the Yellow Lantern Corps?
I know fear is your wings thing, but love will conquer all.
Love will not stop the monster that is fear!
I love disappointing you, Sinestro.
Feel my unbound fury!
You're always so angry, Atrocitus. Saint Walker, help me!
My ring's power is the power of hope, but it can only really help a Green Lantern!
Oh, I love Hal. Is he coming?
We now have you outmatched. Tell us why you brought us here.
For stuff! That's why I'm here. Indigo 1, get this thing off me!
I understand and sympathize, Larfleeze, but we did not bring you out here.
Wait a minute. If none of us are responsible for bringing us out here, then who is?
That would be me.
You sure Killer Croc went this way, Batman?
He broke into the city records office just back that way. And then he had lunch right here.
LEGO Batman 3 Beyond Gotham walkthrough. Pursuers in the Sewers is the first level of this game, of which I believe there's around 11? I don't know, there's a really weird amount of levels, but they end up being about 6 hours long combined, so it's a lengthy game compared to other LEGO games. Most LEGO games in my experience are about 4 hours long, so it was kind of nice having more to do in this game. There's also a hidden level that I'm not gonna bother going over, because that requires collecting, I think, most of the collectibles. I'm not actually too sure how to unlock that, but there's also DLC levels that I will be doing later, and the DLC levels are an entire other issue, and just stuff. It's just something else that bothers me, because they charge $30 for the game, $15 for the season pass, so it's a $45 game, and strangely, you still get more gameplay out of it than you do in Call of Duty Ghosts as far as the single player goes. But I also hate when games could just as easily have put it in the game in the first place, and instead they charge it up. But that seems to be the normal thing today, and we're letting it happen, so I guess I can't complain. Anyway, this is a really fun LEGO game. I was really surprised how well the Traveler's Tales made this one, or whoever made it. I'm pretty sure it was Traveler's Tales. I think there was a different person behind the first LEGO Batman game, so I always get confused when I see LEGO Batman. But anyway, a lot of the recent LEGO games have been giving me a lot of grief, especially LEGO The Hobbit, because that game deleted my save file when I was on the second to last level, and I had to replay the entire game, and then I had to do it again because something else went wrong, and that game is just in a forever red and angry part of my mind. But this one, it still has some glitches, and I will point those out as I come across them. The biggest glitch I ran into was where a cutscene didn't trigger, and I had to restart the whole level because the checkpoint didn't work either. So there are checkpoints, and there's usually 3 per level, and I would save at those every single time, even if you think you don't need it, because even though LEGO games are really fun, they're not particularly polished when it comes to how well or how much time the developers spent on them. You can tell that they definitely could spend a little bit more time and make them even better. But hey, I've said it before, and I'll say it again, these games are easy to make, and they sell millions, and what more do you need to do? They just need to be playable, they don't have to be perfect. Now, the suit system in LEGO Batman is improved from previous games. When you go through the levels, you will unlock a bunch of different suits. This first one is a sensor suit, which reminds me of Arkham City, and there's actually a lot of references to other Batman things in this game. There's a ton of references to the TV show in the, I think in the 1980s or 60s. Can't remember how long ago it was. I've never actually watched that TV show, but I've heard it was pretty funny, so those of you who have watched it, you'll probably notice those references more than I will. Anyway, the sensor suit lets you see through this wall here, and you'll need to solve a puzzle, and this kind of reminds me of BioShock with some of the... when you're trying to hack things in BioShock and you have to get the flow to go from one end to the other, but with here you just have to move the pipes in a certain orientation and get them to allow the water to flow from one side to the next. And you need to unstop the left and the right side so the water can go all the way through. Took me a second here to figure that out on the right one, but it was weird just because you're in a little tiny circle and it's a little bit more difficult to see than you would think it is. I mean, looking at it in the video right now it's fine, but when I was playing it, trying to figure out where everything was in that tiny circle was kind of odd. And more on the suit system, when you unlock the suits, they stay with you throughout the rest of the game, and you'll be able to switch between them at any point that you want to. And at first that did seem a little bit daunting, just because it meant I'd have to remember what each and every suit did and which ability they had, because each suit will have 2 or 3 different tasks it can do. But the game does a pretty good job making it easy to switch between them, just because when you get up to a spot that needs a certain suit, you'll usually be able to push the B button to switch to that suit right away, and you don't have to fiddle around with pushing and holding the Y button and selecting the suit on the wheel. And I should say I'm playing this on the PC with an Xbox 360 controller. If you're playing this on the PlayStation or the Wii U or whatever else, on the keyboard even, your keys will obviously be different than mine. But if I say Y, imagine triangle on the PlayStation, and you basically have the same idea. So Robin gets his hazard suit back, and this lets you walk through toxic waste and suck up junk that you will use later to put together into useful objects. Most of the levels in this game are pretty darn long. Some of them take upwards of 20 to 30 minutes even. And that was kind of annoying to me when I first played this, but it's still fun. I mean, I don't mind there being long levels. What I do mind is there just being long levels for the sake of having a long level, and sometimes that's what it really felt like. But it was still a lot of fun, and there's all kinds of hints scattered around those levels, like that bat symbol with a question mark on it. If you whack those, it'll give you a hint. And this game is actually so good with its hints that you probably don't even really need a walkthrough to get through it anymore. I don't know. Maybe my work isn't required. It probably isn't anyway. It's not really as hard of a LEGO game as others. I've had more problem with puzzles in LEGO Lord of the Rings. These puzzles are pretty creative and I do like them a lot. And this button thing really kind of confused me, because normally you see 2 buttons and you think both of you have to jump on top of them, and I thought, how am I going to get Batman up here? But no, they're just time switches. Remember, the sensor suit can turn invisible, and that will allow you to get past sensors and cameras later in the game, and that'll just be really helpful to remember. And the detectability, you'll want to use that here so you can pull down the train. And Robin and Batman are going to be talking throughout the entire game, and so will all the other heroes. Chances are I'm probably going to be talking over them, so if you want to hear them, I would probably suggest playing the game yourself. I mean, it's not a very expensive game on the PC. $30, that's not a lot of money when it comes to other PC games, especially ones that they try to charge $60 for. Come on, that is console price. The reason people play on PC is for the cheaper games, and a load of other reasons, but that's a different argument. But anyway, it's a cheap game, and if you can't buy it anyway, then I guess you could just watch another walkthrough. The dialogue is hilarious. I love the story in this game. I don't like the voice acting as much as I liked it in LEGO Batman 2, and I don't know if that's just because my standards are a little bit higher, or if it's actually worse. And the one that gave me the biggest issue was just the Joker. I don't know what it was in this game. I think it's the same voice actor in this game as it was in Lego Batman 2, but the Joker in this one just didn't feel as good as before. And that may just be because the story was a little bit less Joker related. Now this part was probably the most annoying part in the game, and I'm not kidding, this is the most annoying part in the game, because Batman will say those look really slippery, and does he mean it? Those are stupidly slippery, and this reminds me of a lot of problematic places that I had to jump on in Lego Star Wars 1 and 2. That was always really weird trying to master the strange Lego mechanics, but it only took me 3 tries. Shouldn't take you too many more, and then you'll be able to come over here and pull down this ladder and go on through the next part of the level. Each level is usually consisted of about 3 major parts, and the last part will usually have a boss. And this is especially true with the later half of the game. The first half of the game kind of does whatever the heck it wants. If you're ever stuck and you can't figure out what to destroy to build stuff, just look for glowing bricks, destroy those, and those usually have the things that you need to continue.
I'm wondering if maybe we should start going after the criminals who live in the good neighborhoods.
Robin, look, I know you're scared, but we have a job to do.
Hey, who said anything about being scared?
That doesn't freak you out?
Bats and rats aren't so different.
You're not actually a bat.
You'll come to learn emotions are a weakness. Crime fighters can't afford to give in to them.
Look, just because I get scared doesn't mean I can't fight crime.
Looking for me.
And here's a checkpoint, so I would definitely recommend saving here, but I didn't because this was before a cutscene didn't trigger and I had to replay the whole level. So after that I was completely sure to save each and every single time that I could. Another thing that kind of bothered me about this game was how many times there were points in a level when you thought, okay, that'll be the end of the level, right? And no, you're only about halfway done, and I just kind of felt like they could have made that a little bit more fluid, or I don't really know how to explain what I'm feeling, but I just kind of felt they could have made it a little bit, made the levels feel a little bit less done when they weren't actually done. Or what they could have done is just split up the levels and added 15 instead of 11. Because most LEGO games have 15, so I was kind of surprised that they made the levels really long and added like 11 levels in this. Anyway, for Killer Croc, I think this is one of the only, I think this is actually the, this is one of the only times in the game you're actually going to fight him. There's a few other times later, but this will be the biggest fight with him, and you'll just want to avoid most of his attacks until he lets you build this junk collector in the middle of the map. And the reason I call it a junk collector is because you need to switch to Robin and switch to his hazmat suit or his hazard suit and then pick up all this garbage that's lying around. And you need to get 25 of these bricks and stick them into that junk bin builder thing. I don't really know what to call that. And once you do that, that'll let you attack Killer Croc. There are two piles of junk on the left and right side of this area here, and if you can't get enough on one side, then obviously going over to the other, use the sensor suit, try to open up this water fan here, turbine, I don't even know what that would be called. Sewer plug, whatever it is. Open it up, and the Killer Croc, he'll jump through the opening a couple of times, and I don't know if that's what causes the junk to come out of the water, or if he just jumps for the sake of jumping, but either way, just pick everything up. Here, I wasn't paying attention to the number on the back of my suit, and you can see it's at like 28, and now it's at 30, so I was just picking up all this other stuff thinking I needed all of it to get 25, because in Lego Batman 1, where you use the suit a lot, you would need each and every junk piece that you could find, but in this game they are happy to give you way more than you need, and that's kind of nice because you don't have to look all around the level for 10 minutes, but also kind of not nice because it takes out that looking for 10 minute... what word would that be? I don't know. My words are not coming through today.
We've got you now. Well, at least I wasn't scared.
No, you were proud of yourself, which is also an emotion.
I learned so much in this job.
I got the sewer maps.
That layman slobbin we're here, and I didn't get to say hello.
I thought we were on a tight schedule, Joker.
Hey, I got us all out of Arkham Asylum. Can you blame a guy for wanting to enjoy the moment? Stop and smell the roses?
Something down here stinks.
Me not stink.
I think she was talking about the sewer, Grundy.